Welcome to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
At the University of Miami in Florida.
Yes, and we're here at the Future Forum, but before we get started, there are a few things that I need to talk about that are noticeably different from our ordinary broadcast. As you probably recognize, Chris isn't here. I'm not going to get into the personal reasons that he's not here. That's his own thing, but...
Now, wait a minute. What did you do to him?
No, I didn't do anything, but I am the host.
You know he's always wanted that position.
And he just strong-armed it this morning.
Yeah, all by himself. I wonder if Chris knows.
Well, you know, I mean, yes, I'm physically strong, but I would never strong-arm Chris because I'm not a violent person in any way. But he couldn't
Although
be
he could
here.
pay someone.
Guys,
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
hosting.
Sorry,
the show.
okay,
yes.
go ahead.
And so we're here at the Future Forum with me as host. In fact, Jackie, you're abandoning everything I taught you yesterday about what it means to be a co-host that supports the host. And I actually had Ron shoot some video of our little meeting yesterday, and so why don't we roll with that? So we got a show tomorrow.
Yep.
Do you have an agenda or anything for me to go over and evaluate?
Ooh, don't you have that?
Well, I mean, you were on the same telecons and stuff. I mean, as host, I wouldn't think I'd have to do any of that. I mean, it'd just be, I thought you would put all that together. Don't you have some notes or anything I can?
Haven't you learned from Chris? He does a lot of work.
Yeah, Chris does do a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'd call him, but, you know, he can't really help me at this point. Is there anything, I mean, what's the Future Forum?
Blair,
Yeah?
I have to tell you something.
Okay.
I know we give you a hard time,
Right?
but I have a lot of faith that you could do a really good job.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So I need you to really get your stuff together. You've been in the same telecons, write everything that, go back through your notes,
Okay.
put an agenda together, and then we can review it together.
Okay. All right, well, can you forward me everything you've got?
Sure.
Okay, that'll help, and then I'll read that, and we'll get together later, and I'll try to... Yeah, that's not the tape that we run. We didn't talk about that.
Yes, it is. It's exactly what happened.
That was not good at all, Blair.
What are you talking? I didn't do. That's not right. I would have my A game on. That's I disavow and.
That was
totally,
C+ game, Doc.
C+. Yeah, that was a C+ game, but that's not accurate.
Well, you know,
very
if Chris were here,
professional.
he would have done his research, he would have checked the sources, he would have used the internet.
Now, Franklin, you, Blair, you're doing a great job,
Thank
and I'm
you.
sure Chris would be
Jack.
so proud.
Yes, he would be. I saw that. And Chris is not here, but I'm hosting and everything's going well if you just get on board. So we're talking about the Future Forum. And we're going to be hearing from Shana Dale and Carl Walz. I got to interview them and that went great, so we'll look forward to that. But also I understand that even though I'm not Chris, you guys did get out to the campus. Tell us about that.
I think Chris would be proud of what we did.
Very proud of what we did. We actually did an ESA here on the campus of the University of Miami, and we had a lot of interesting responses from the students here, and Jackie was superb.
Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We expect a lot, but
This
she
is the
always
first time I
delivers.
worked with Franklin.
Yes,
It was a
and-
pleasure.
How did Franklin do?
Oh, excellent.
Oh, yeah, he always
Excellent.
does a good job.
Yeah, so but I think you'll look forward to seeing that. And as I said, we talked a lot about technologies, and the students, believe it or not, were all over it.
Well, I tell you, I like the feeling we're getting here. We're starting to build as a team. Now, Chris is absent, maybe not such a big deal.
Well,
you
know,
feel that?
Well, Chris
Feel
is
that?
actually a teacher. He
Yes,
was a teacher
he is.
before he came here to NASA Edge, and I think his presence here on the University at the University of Miami is missed.
Definitely missed.
Yeah, and the students didn't really respond to all my professorial efforts either, which is unfortunate, but that's okay, because I'm not a teacher like Chris, but I am a host, and you're watching NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
From the University of Miami in Florida.
Now things are cooking. This is good. This is nice. I feel like we're bonding as
Where's
a
that
team.
blazer?
I need with the patches.
Welcome back to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
We're here on the campus of the University of Miami outside their Student Center. And this is the place where we're going to ask our ESA questions to the students about spin-off technology and the future of NASA.
Who do you think will win, the guys or the girls?
I think the men will do pretty good.
I have a feeling the women always know what they're talking about.
Let's check it out. Okay, Amy, my first question to you is, what is a rescue pod?
I would have to say something that goes on a spaceship in case something goes wrong.
Are you kidding me?
I'm guessing it's set in space.
It's a part of the ship that can eject and bring whoever's on the ship to safety.
Well, I don't know exactly what it is, but I have a feeling because I remember I was watching Air Force One with Harrison Ford, and they used a pod for him to like escape and stuff like that. So I'm thinking that's what it is.
Okay, the rescue pod I'm talking about is actually spelled RESQPOD. Have you ever heard of it?
Nope.
I have no idea. I really don't.
It's actually spelled RESQPOD.
Oh, then I guess a rescue pod. Seeing that iPod and that pod spelled the same, I believe it's some type of variation of an iPod.
The rescue pod is actually a device that enhances circulation to the heart and the brain during CPR.
Oh.
It was born out of technology used at NASA to help astronauts get reacclimated and to increase their circulation when they got back on Earth.
Okay.
Just a bit of information.
Okay.
Saying you learned something today.
I did.
Okay. The second question is multiple choice. And we're talking about spin-off technology. How many spin-off technologies has NASA developed over the years? A, 16, B, 160, or C, 1600?
160.
The middle one, B.
B.
Spin-off technologies in terms of just other technology.
I'll go with B.
It's actually 1600.
Really?
Yeah. It's pretty amazing, huh?
Yeah. I'm only familiar with the Sleep Member bed because of all the advertising.
All the commercials, that's true.
I'll say C, 1600.
C, 1600?
C, 1600?
Absolutely correct. Good. I mean, you're looking real smart today now. And no one's going to get the first one. I actually believe that.
And the last question is a lot easier. Where would you like to see NASA go in the future?
Like, I know this is kind of like what everyone says, yeah, to go to Mars and stuff like that, but I think that we should discover if there's actually life out there.
I'd like to see NASA develop programs that can further help us on Earth as well as in space too, so keep on developing technologies that can assist us to progress our civilization.
Flying cars.
Flying cars. Why flying cars?
I don't know. It would just be cool to see.
Well, nanotechnology is something that vets have started to dabble in slightly, as the medical field has also started. So I guess trying to improve nanotechnology so it's more available to, forms of medicine, and it can help more.
Probably Mars.
Ooh, I have one. So I heard that when you go up into space, your bone density is decreased very much. So perhaps they can do more research to rebuild up the bone density for people who have osteoporosis. So it'd be helping, the spacemen and also regular lay people.
I would like to see NASA back on the moon. I think so much was dedicated before my lifetime to getting there, and there's so much more we could do there, I believe, if we went back.
Wow, we had a good time here on the campus of the University of Miami during our ESA questions. And I'm actually proud to say that the women did edge out the men by a small percentage on their answers.
Yes, they did. And we had some really great answers from nanotechnology to flying cars. It was great to see what all the students had to say about NASA and how interested they were.
Hey, so until the next time we step out for another ESA, and hopefully you'll come out and work with me again.
Oh, I'd love to.
Hey, until then, this is NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
Excellent job on the ESA, guys. That was fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think our first ever NASA Edge tag team, where we actually had two people out at the same time getting ESA questions
Oh, I didn't
done.
know that.
Yeah, this is the first time I've actually had an opportunity to work with you. And actually, when we were down in Daytona.
During the road trip.
During our road trip, Blair got out on the beach and did a little ESA interaction with the people. But this was different, and it was nice to be working here with you at the University of Miami.
Thank you, same here.
Of course, those were my pre-hosting days. I mean, that was the old co-host days. So you're kind of following in my footsteps, of course. And I'm very professional now hosting, and I did get an opportunity to speak with the Honorable Shana Dale, the Deputy Administrator at NASA, which was great. And I actually got to spend a lot of time with her. We had very long interviews. She asked really tough questions, and she was very responsive. And we're going to take a look at that. And I'm sure you guys will be impressed. What you're going to see here now in this interview is an inside look at all things NASA via Blair and Shana Dale. So let's check it out. Well, thanks so much, Shana, for coming and talking to us about the future forums. My first question right off the bat is actually, what is the Future Forum?
The Future Forum is an opportunity to go to 7 different cities in 2008, places that we don't typically go to, not our traditional aerospace stomping grounds, and kind of share the wealth in terms of what NASA's doing. This is our 50th year anniversary, so part of this is celebration, talking about the achievements over the past 50 years, but always also looking towards the future and what our new programs are, and really trying to re-engage with the American public and share the excitement that we feel about the space program.
How exactly does a spin-off technology happen?
Well, spin-offs are part of the whole space economy that we're talking about.
No, I'm sorry, space economy, is that like US dollars or is it like
No,
moon
it's actually worldwide.
Oh,
and for 2007, the new numbers are just in, and it's $251 billion in revenue worldwide that were generated.
Wow.
A huge number. So the space economy is really everything that we get from space, in terms of, you know, what comes out of exploring, understanding, utilizing space. So it can range all the way from, you know, applications like extracting money from your ATM machine, kind of low tech, all the way up to really high tech stuff like advanced breast cancer imaging, which came out of the Hubble Space Telescope program. Because NASA is engaged in going into the unique, extreme environment of space, we obviously have to innovate and create our own technologies to accomplish our missions.
And that's interesting. Now, how does that happen when NASA does something like, you know, use the Hubble or something in the ISS or space station? How does that make its way to the public?
Well, a lot of times it's interaction from the Innovative Partnership Program Office that also has small offices in each of our centers. So it's connection with those particular communities, but also doing broad announcements of technologies that have come out and opportunities to partner or opportunities just to pick up those technologies and further develop them.
If I'm a small business person in Miami and I come to the Future Forum here, you know, what can I do as a result of attending a really cool Future Forum? Because I thought it was time travel at first, but that's my own ignorance, but I guess it's something else.
Well, you know, for small businesses, I think it's making that initial connection with us. And the primary place for people, you know, in Florida would be to have that connection with the Kennedy Space Center and have a direct connection with the Technology Transfer Office and the Small Business Office there. That's your first venue, but you may want to have a relationship with any one of our centers or the people at headquarters, and all of the people that are working in those offices are very receptive to developing relationships with these small businesses.
I come here and hear about all the technology, and then I start to contact Kennedy or another agency, and possibly we can partner on developing technology.
Could be.
And then adding our own dollars to the space economy.
Exactly. Yeah, and also adding to, you know, we have over 1,600 documented NASA-derived technologies at this point, which is very significant, and that could add to that collection as well.
Yeah, and that's quite a Hall of Fame to be. You know, you can create a T-shirt. I was one of, you know, my technology was developed by something from NASA, which would be kind of cool.
Well, and that's all part of, you know, what NASA does to spur innovation in the United States, and also really increase our U.S. economic competitiveness, and all of that adds to it. You know, small business is a major driver of the U.S. economy. So to the extent that NASA can take what we've uniquely developed and you know, help transfer that technology and further the economic base of the country, that's in everybody's interest.
I notice you're referred to as the Honorable Shana Dale. How could I get the status of the Honorable co-host Blair Allen or Honorable host? How do you get that?
You get that by, how I got that was going through becoming a presidential appointee, Senate confirmed person. So it's kind of a hard path. Yeah, you might want to think about maybe a different title, like the Grand Poobah.
Ah, nice.
You know,
I like
it's
that.
a little bit different.
Yeah.
It's something different than the Honorable, but it's unique.
And it also it has some clout.
Yeah.
I think if I were the Grand Poobah Medianaut of NASA Edge, that might help me get along.
There you go. That opens doors.
Awesome. Well, I'm all about opening doors, except when you're in space, unless you're clothed properly, because that's important. Okay, well, thanks so much. We look forward to the Future Forum, and thanks for the interview. This is great. You're watching NASA Edge, an inside and outside look at all things NASA.
Who was that guy? I thought I was going to be interviewed by Chris.
And welcome back to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
From the University of Miami in Florida at the Future Forum, where, as you can see with my incredible hosting leadership, we can mix things up here. And Jacky gets to open the show, and then Franklin, and then...
That was Franklin's idea.
I came up with that idea before we came back.
Right, but...
Give credit where credit is due. It's part of being a leader.
Yeah, right, but my leadership allowed that creativity to flourish, which is nice. And speaking of flourishing, how about that interview with Shana Dale? Pretty good.
Great job.
Oh, thanks. Awesome.
It was pretty good, but I kind of think that Chris fed you some information and questions for that interview.
Did you see the interview? Those were my questions, you know that. Chris would have done a better job, I think, with the questions than I did. But I put things together, and of course, Shana Dale, brilliant in answering, did a great job, and certainly helped me learn a lot more about NASA, which is great, and hopefully you as well.
And the most interesting part to me was the education part.
Yeah. Well, you work in education, right?
I do. I work with a program called 21st Century Explorer. It's in both English and Spanish, and offers hands-on activities with additional resources just for teachers and parents, all downloadable for free.
That was almost host-like. You did a good job. That was pretty impressive.
Thank you.
So this is not our first rodeo?
That's true, but see, again, under my leadership, see how this all comes together? It's really nice.
Blair, this is a democracy.
I'm sorry. Anyway, to not be a dictator, I'll move on and more democratically approach our interview with actually Carl Walz, former astronaut. I talked to him, and we're going to look at that interview, and he's in charge of the Advanced Technologies Division at NASA. So you're going to learn a lot of interesting things about technology and what we're doing in the space program. So it should be good. Let's take a look. Hi, we're here with Carl Walz. He is an astronaut at NASA, and also his title, if I get this correct, because it's rather long, is Director of Advanced Capabilities Division. That sounds a lot like Morgan Freeman from the Dark Knight Batman movie. What exactly do you do as the Director of Advanced Capabilities?
Well, in the Exploration Systems Mission Directorate, there's two groups. There's the Constellation Group, and we all know what those guys do. Developing the next generation of space transportation. On the advanced capabilities side, we have our Lunar Precursor Robotics Program. So the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter and LCROSS are in that group, along with our Human Research Program. A lot of that work being done on the International Space Station. And then we also have our Exploration Technology Development Program, which is providing the technology underpinnings for, both Orion, Ares 1, and then Ares 5, Altair the lander, and then our surface capabilities as we develop the outpost on the moon.
So you don't have much to do in that office, basically?
No.
That's a lot of stuff.
It's a lot of stuff. It's a really broad brush of, and I'll go from talking about, surface nuclear reactors for the moon to talking about the effects of bone loss on astronauts. So it's
wow. So you cover the whole gamut then.
I try.
Because we were actually looking at, we're going to do some segments on LRO and LCROSS, and I wouldn't have put that in that division. But so anyway, so you're basically dealing with how, really not just in support of Constellation, but sort of all the other things that go into a long-term presence on the moon. Is
Absolutely.
That right?
That's right. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. Now, how is real estate going to work on the moon then? Are you going to be involved in selling plots and the nitty-gritty of all that, or how's that going to work?
Well, it's a good question because, it's a lot of those things have to do with international treaties. There's peaceful uses of the Moon Treaty. There's a Moon Treaty itself. So all those things have to get worked out. Our piece of that is to develop a comprehensive topographic map of the moon, and we'll do that with the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. And along with that will also be surveys of some of the resources that we might expect to find on the moon. And then LCROSS, we hope to see if there's any water ice in some of these permanently shadowed craters. And so that's going to smack into a crater, create a big debris cloud that we'll be able to measure and look for direct evidence of water. So it's going to be pretty exciting. We're going to try to set it up so that it's visible from Earth. So we'll have Earth telescopes as well as space telescopes looking for the big boom. So.
Well, I tell you what, just as an aside, I know the treaty, International Moon Treaty thing is important, but if we could get a little, plot of land on the Shackleton Rim, I'm looking to put a retirement community there.
Now, there you go.
I'm setting aside some money now, some investments that maybe we could put toward that. So,
hey, it's 16G, it's easier to get around.
Yeah. See, what I'm wondering and this is just if you could help me out here, as an untrained, or a media in training, let's say, that wants to go to the moon, would it be more likely for me to get in on a robotics mission, where, put myself at risk, I'm willing to do that, and maybe go up with some robots and sort of do a mixed mission ahead of the regular astronauts? I mean, if something goes wrong, at least I'll have helped the cause.
You will have helped the cause.
Is that possible? I mean, do they have an avenue for something like that at NASA?
Right now, I don't think so. I think it's either robots or it's people, but we'll see how that goes.
I'm willing to go out to the desert rats like I did. I did some research. Didn't turn out the way I wanted, but I mean, it's a first step.
Yep, and one of the things we really want to see if we can actually live off the land to a certain extent, using in situ resource utilization.
What was that?
This is actually using the elements that exist on the moon to provide oxygen or water or raw materials, to take those things and then so that we don't have to bring as much from Earth.
Right, because it's got to be incredibly difficult to keep providing those resources from Earth and for lack of a better word, shipping them up there.
Exactly. The shipping cost is really expensive.
FedEx doesn't even go to the moon.
Not yet.
Not yet. But maybe in the space economy.
In the space economy, that could be a future growth market for them.
Yeah. See, so I'm getting the lingo down. I'm meeting all the right people. I tell you, I think I'm ready. You got to help me out. Help me out with that.
I think you're getting there. Yeah.
Now, I do understand. Just one more question. You used to hold the record for spending the longest time in space, is that correct?
It was Dan Bursch and I, and it was the U.S. record for the longest U.S. space mission. Of course, the longest human mission was 432 days, Polyakov from Russia. So for Dan Bursch and I, we held that record for Expedition 4. We recently, that record was supplanted by Mike Lopez Alegria, and his mission on the International Space Station. That was 213 days.
Yeah, it's still cool. I mean, how do you feel about your record? Athletes sometimes, they don't like to see their records being broken, but how do you feel about having your record broken?
It's one of those things that you have to be philosophical about, because I think records are made to be broken, and you want that, at least I would like to see that continue, longer stays, because eventually when we go to Mars, the minimum time one way is like 6 months, so you have to come back, you want to stay a while, so you're talking certainly more than a year or maybe up to 3 years there, staying and coming back. And so we need to set more records like that.
Well, I think it'd be cool, and I think it is great. I think you're right, and that's a good attitude, certainly, because ultimately with the long-term presence in space, the record would be obviously broken. But I don't know how Dan feels, but if you wanted a sort of astronaut media night co-op program where maybe you and I could go up.
Oh, there you go.
And then we could break all the current records.
There you go.
With your expertise and my wit. And entertainment value, 6 months in space, no problem. Easy, on the way to Mars. It'd be
there
great.
You go. There you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time for the interview. And,
you bet. My pleasure.
I hope the forum goes well, and we look forward to hearing you talk and hearing more from you. It'll be great.
All right. Well, thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Sure.
You're watching NASA Edge, an inside and outside look at all things NASA. And if you're at D-Rats, maybe again this
Welcome back to NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
From the University of Miami in Florida at the Future Forum. What did you guys think of the Carl Walz interview?
I loved it.
It was great. He was a pretty interesting guy.
Yeah, what's really cool, I think, is the fact that not only we learn about what's happening in the space program, but we're also finding out how we're actually going to accomplish some of these things. So that's very fascinating. And we'll actually hear more about that at the Future Forum. You're watching NASA Edge.
An inside and outside look at all things NASA.
From the University of Miami in Florida.
Not bad, a little successful show there. Yeah. Putting it together live, not bad. Yeah. Hey, Chris, sorry, yes, it's Blair. Yeah, I know I'm supposed to be, I'm at the forum, I'm just not in the forum. Yeah, I know, as host of the show, I'm supposed to be in the forum, but I gave the tickets to Jacky and Franklin. What, they called you and they're already in, yeah, that's about right.